Hi, welcome to Widescreen Logic. I'm Josh Weber. Today we're going to dive into the newest film of director Jane Campion, The Power of the Dog. Campion is a well-regarded director, and this marks her 8th directorial feature. I haven't been able to catch up with any of her other films, but after seeing this one, I really would like to. Netflix has been doing their fair share of disrupting the entertainment world as of late. But one thing I'm glad that they're doing is giving directors like Campion an opportunity to make a mid-level budget film. Most studios these days are only willing to spend upwards of 9 digits for films to be released on as many screens as possible. Movies with the budget of The Power of the Dog, somewhere in the realm of 30 to 40 million, are a dying breed, no pun intended. And I hope that as Netflix continues to spend ungodly amounts of money on projects like Stranger Things, 5, and whatever's cooking in the Mark Miller verse, that they help make movies like these. The Power of the Dog is set in the year 1925 in Montana. Two brothers, Phil and George, are cowboys by trade and are on a cattle drive. They come across a woman, Rose, and her teenage son, Peter, who is coded anything but masculine, and he receives the ridicule of Phil as a result. Despite this and Phil's distaste for Rose, George falls in love with her and they eventually marry. The rest of the film consists of watching this family slowly implode. Phil sees George as lacking masculinity in general, and frequently mocking him, calling him fatso, and talking down to him. Phil is also hostile towards Rose as he watches George taking a liking to her. And once they marry, Phil takes it upon himself to make her life as difficult as he can. Perhaps the greatest turn is watching his relationship with Peter take a wildly different path as he begins to see that maybe they're not so different after all, and there might just be a way to make a man out of Peter yet. Though it may not seem like it at first, it may be the most homoerotic cowboy movie since Brokeback Mountain. If the only westerns that interest you are those that involve high stakes and horse chases, this may not be the one for you. While there's plenty of time spent on horseback and spending time with cattle, there are no gunfights or really any fights involving physical contact. The conflicts in this one are mostly verbal and psychological. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people didn't make it through the film's 2-hour running time. But if you're into watching the kind of cowboy movie where they have to wrestle with their masculinity, this one's for you. I was skeptical of Benedict Cumberbatch being able to pull off acting as a cowboy, given that his last few accents didn't really work for me. His southern drawl came on too strong for me in August, Osage County, and I know that was like a decade ago, but it still bangs around in my head sometimes. And I still have a hard time with whatever voice he's trying to do as Doctor Strange. I'm probably in the minority there, but I can always detect hints of his regular voice, and I've never felt like I'm watching Cumberbatch try to be anything but a mystical Tony Stark, and it's never quite come together for me. But I was completely enraptured by him in this film. There's an argument to be made that he is slightly miscast as a cowboy, as he is not the most natural fit physically for this, though that's not to be said that he didn't get into great physical shape to do this role. There's a scene where he gets fully nude, and wow, the abs that man developed for this movie are some I will never have. His slight miscasting works as a man who is constantly trying to prove he is the manliest of men when he himself is no John Wayne. In his private moments, it is strongly implied that his admiration for Bronco Henry, the man who taught him and George to ride and to be cowboys, extends beyond just and basic admiration, maybe a romantic love for him as well. I really enjoyed Johnny Greenwood's score here. It's not omnipresent throughout the film, nor does it always punctuate the most dramatic moments, but its steady uneasiness never lets us get too comfortable. At times it almost feels like a monster movie. There are some scores that lean into the full range of an orchestra to do most of the heavy emotional lifting, but Greenwood knows when enough is enough and how a simple banjo can stop a grand piano dead in its tracks. Ari Wegner's work as cinematographer here is laudable. They managed to make New Zealand a compelling stand-in for 1920s Montana. It seems to pay a sweeping visual homage to Terrence Malick's 1973 film, Days of Heaven. I was frequently reminded of the cinematography in that film as I watched this one, and it really worked for me. She juxtaposes those homages with intense psychological conflicts between the characters, making a large ranch house feel like a prison that can't be escaped by Rose. The cattle range can feel both vast and wide and simultaneously isolating and haunting. There were times it almost felt like a haunted house movie to me. The cinematography here is worth the price of admission alone if you get a chance to see this on the big screen. Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons are also wonderful as George and Rose, and watching their relationship play out was a highlight of the film for me. The movie kind of sidelined them in the last third of the film, but given that Phil is where a lot of the conflict lies, I wasn't too torn up about it. If you liked what you saw of them together, they very much got the chance to shine in the second season of Noah Hawley's Fargo TV series, and I would highly recommend seeking that out if you haven't. I haven't seen Cody Smith-McPhee in a lot, but I really enjoyed his performance alongside Viggo Mortensen in the adaptation of Cormac McCarthy's book, The Road. His performance as Peter here is also very strong, and he provides an intriguing foil to Phil as a young man who doesn't fit the mold of a traditionally masculine young man. Watching him evolve as a character over the course of the movie is just as compelling as the examination of Phil, and by the end I immediately wanted to go back and rewatch the whole movie to see what I had not paid close enough attention to. This cowboy movie may be a bit of a slow burn, but it's one that pays off a lot in the end. It will almost certainly be a major contender this award season. I think it will definitely get a Best Picture nod, Best Actor nod for Benedict Cumberbatch, maybe even a supporting nod for Smith-McPhee or Jesse Plemons. Heck, there may even be a Best Supporting Actress nod for Kirsten Dunst. This may not be her best work, but she deserves one. Maybe let's not give it to Meryl Streep for Don't Look Up or whatever movie she's in this year. The Power of the Dog is now streaming on Netflix. Check it out and let me know what you think. I'll see you again soon.